Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Regroup Show. For those of you who are new, my name is LJ Walker. I am a real estate investor. I invest in buildings, tax liens, and mortgage notes. In addition, I'm also the author of the book, The Perils of Real Estate Scam Alert, in which I help aspiring investors avoid being scammed, and those who are already investors who have gotten scammed, I let them know what their options are and try to help them get back on track, if you will. In addition, I do have a podcast on WFNY Radio, which is an internet station that you can download. There, I am with many other podcasters, all within the financial arena. Well, today, what I want to discuss with you is what I'm seeing in relation to the topic that's going around, and that's police brutality's effect on real estate. Like most people, I believe, many of you, hopefully, you were disturbed by the recent occurrence. We had maybe 4 reported, videotaped police brutality situations that occurred right here this past week in America alone. For me, I became extremely emotional, and I had to step away from social media for a while. Not completely, because it's a little difficult to do, but I had to take a breather, if you will. I'm an empath, so things affect me emotionally a little bit more so than most other people. We're affected by what we see and what we hear. We take it to heart. So I had to just gather myself and take a moment. I mean, I'm working on a deal, and I couldn't even concentrate as far as analyzing the deal. I'm not even worried if I lose it, to be quite honest with you. There will be another one. But yes, when I saw the picture of the man's knee on the other man's neck, that really bothered me. Okay. It was sort of like the final straw. You see, I'm almost 50 years old, so this is not new to me. There are many cases, there are things that I've seen that have not been reported, that's not been videotaped, that the news media has not covered. So I'm really not new to this. I'm at the point right now where, you might be angry, I'm enraged, okay? I'm not like, oh, wow, However, I agree with the protests, but I am not really for the rioters. I understand where they come from because I feel the same hurt and pain that they do. However, I feel as though it could have been done in a more productive manner. And then in addition to that, many of the rioters really weren't for George Floyd. They really were from another group. And actually, there were many groups. It wasn't even just the George Floyd protesters. But there were many other groups that participated. I believe I even heard that some of the people, one group was actually affiliated with the KKK that was just trying to make the protesters look bad. I kind of suspected something was off. I understood the burning down of the police station. I'm not saying I agree with it, because I do have cousins who are police officers, but I could understand that. But when they started burning down affordable housing buildings, that part, I didn't understand that at all. Because, well, first of all, let me just brief you with the little bit that I do know about Minnesota. Minnesota is one of the fastest gentrificating cities in the United States of America. As a matter of fact, you'll notice that right before a city becomes gentrified, and while it's being gentrified, police brutality in those areas actually go up. So there seems to be some sort of correlation. I don't know if anybody else picked up on it or not, but this is what I've been seeing across America. New York is where I'm from. I invest in Florida. I was looking at St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm just noticing certain things. Anytime there's this big case, that particular area, all of a sudden the prices for property drops for a little bit, and then it increases sometimes 3 times its price. So that's another reason why I'm not all that crazy about them destroying property. And going back, like I said, I did suspect something was wrong when they burnt down the building that was for affordable housing. You see, Minnesota does not have a very large African American community. Not that all of them, all African Americans who live in Minnesota need affordable housing. It's just that I know that a certain percentage of them probably were living in that building. And it didn't make sense to me that you would put innocent people lives in danger like that. And I'm hearing people say things, well, oh, you know, the owners have insurance, businesses have insurance. That's all well and good. But first of all, let me tell you something. Everybody, believe it or not, even though they should have insurance, everybody does not have insurance. Secondly, when it comes to real estate, particularly residential real estate, the owner's insurance only covers the walls, the windows, and the floors. And then if the owner lives in that building, the contents within the owner's area, where they living quarters. It does not cover the contents of the tenant's living quarters. And many tenants, unfortunately, don't go ahead and get tenants insurance. You see, and so that's one of the reasons why I have a problem. So yes, I understand the rage and the anger, but hurting innocent people like that, no. And you're displacing people as well, because now those people are probably homeless and will have to scramble to find another place to live with all that's going on. And mind you, Minneapolis already displaced a number of African Americans because there was a neighborhood, an African American neighborhood, that they decided to build a highway on. So none of those buildings are there now. So that's another thing. I know when you're rioting, you're not thinking, but you have to find a way to manage your anger a little bit better. I personally am taking anger management so that I can, so that I don't blow my top, even though I have a number of times, but so that it doesn't escalate to that particular point, because you can hurt someone else or you can also end up hurting yourself. Many of you are on videotape. Your pictures are all over social media. One day somebody will see, oh, hey, that's the person that burnt down this, that's the person that stole this, that, and the third. So let's just be a little bit mindful, please. And also, the family mentioned that they want like an end to the violence. Listening to George Floyd himself, I believe he also would have been a nonviolent individual, and he probably would not be pleased. This is greater than him. This is bigger than him. Yes, I understand. I know this. But if you're truly going to be for George Floyd, you need to really think about honoring him as a person, and also honoring all the other people that have died due to police brutality as well. Okay? Now, I'm sorry. We're having a heat wave. I'm having a hot flash. And the two are just kicking up together. The other thing that I wanted to let you guys know. Sorry if you see my eyes drift to the side, but I wanted to take down notes so that I make sure that I don't forget anything. And then also, because I'm emotional, I have cried a number of times as well. So I'm trying not to, veer off too much off topic so that I don't get carried away. All right, getting back to the subject of insurance. Here's the other thing that you want to keep in mind too. Even if a person does have insurance, business, homeowner, property owner, etc., even if it is enough to cover everything, the truth in the matter is that sometimes people have things that have intrinsic value. It can never be replaced because it comes from a certain time in their life or from a certain family member that may not be there anymore. And even though, let's say, they can replace a couch, they can replace a chair, they can replace a picture, maybe. Well, pictures are actually very difficult to replace, I'll tell you that much. But okay, let's say they can replace all of those things. The value that the original piece contained is something that money cannot buy and no other object can really replace. So again, just it may happen again. I hope that it doesn't, but it might. Please just be a little bit more mindful. Okay. And the other reason why I knew, especially when they burnt down those buildings, one thing, it's a joke to a certain extent, but I'm going to be real about it. How come the IRS building was not burnt down? I mean, of all buildings out there to target, but I guess, you're not really thinking when you're writing. You're just going out there and doing whatever, and you just want to destroy whatever is in your way. I get that, but people, I'm telling you, it's not a good idea. So what I propose is, I am a person who is solution oriented, and I am here to give you some solutions. There are certain things that I've known about before, and then there are certain things that I just learned about this week, and I've been studying a little bit more on it, and I want to share with you. First and foremost, if you have not filled out the census, please fill out the census so that the government knows how many people are here in America, how many people are in your community, how much money needs to be allocated to your community. It's a way, to a certain extent, to let your voice be heard. The next thing, of course, is to vote. So many of you did not vote in the last election. It is extremely important that you vote. Try and see, because, being that COVID-19 is still out there, don't think that just because they're not talking about it, that some of the protesters and some of the rioters didn't catch it. The CEO of the firm that I work for, which is a international law firm that does commercial real estate, well, that's one of the things they do. They also do mergers, acquisitions, etc. He is also on the board for Mount Sinai Hospital, and he said that the cases for COVID-19 has increased. So just so you know, you can vote by mail. Okay, New York, we are supposed to be in by June 23rd. So please fill out the absentee ballot. Please fill out the vote by mail. Make that a choice. If you know that you're a person that you don't feel like waiting online for a long time, etc., etc., etc. If you want to see a change, you have to make the change. And it's not just the president, okay? It's not just the mayor or the governor. It's your local representatives, those congressmen that make the laws. The president really, he just approves the laws, and he's also, of course, in charge of military. But in either case, I must urge you to please get out there and vote. All right? There's something else that came across my path that I was unaware of, and I don't think most people are aware of. And that's this. There's something called the Police Brutality Fund. What that fund does, okay, is if a police officer is found guilty of police brutality, it pretty much helps pay for their bond, pay for their bail. Guess where that money comes from? Our taxes. Okay? It comes from our taxes, our tax-paying money. So in other words, to a certain extent, you are paying money for somebody to kick you behind. To me, that's asinine. Well, I found a group, and I'll leave the link later underneath the video. And it's a campaign. They have a site where you can sign and petition the fact that your tax dollars are going into this police brutality bail fund. It's ridiculous. Please sign it. It's free. It costs you absolutely no money. And if you're here in New York and you are a landlord, please visit Landlord New York or go to campaigns.org. They also are protesting against the increase in property taxes. And yes, part of your property taxes go towards the police. I don't really mind, to be honest with you, paying for the police salary, but I do have an issue. I mean, we're paying now, most New Yorkers are paying at least $8,000 and above for a property tax, and most of that is actually going to the police force. And I know that all of it is not going towards their salary. It's going to other things that that we probably would agree is not worth supporting. Okay. There's another group, reclaimtheblock.org, and if I'm not mistaken, that's going to be to help revitalize those areas out there in Minnesota. You also have different funds out there, or different community groups that are to bail out protesters, because they have arrested protesters that were actually peaceful. You can go to the NAACP Legal Aid Fund. Colin Kaepernick, he has Know Your Rights Camp. You also have streamlabs.com, in which you can donate. And recently, there was a businessman named David McAtee, who often gave the police officers free food, and he got shot and killed. I believe he was feeding some protesters, and I think it was a police officer that shot him. I'm not certain. Double check that on your own. But there is a Justice for David McAtee, MCATEE, in which you can contribute to. Okay. There's also Hope World. That's HOPEWRLD on Twitter. They have a list of funds in which you can help any minority business that has been directly impacted by the riots that have occurred. And there's also I'll put up a link for the mutual aid funds, which also does the same thing, and it breaks it down by state. You also have the Minnesota Freedom Fund, which also bails out the peaceful protesters. And of course, as many of you know, some of you may not know, George Floyd, there is a fund for his legal team, his legal case, to help the family pay for that. That's on GoFundMe. It is legitimate. I double checked with several sources to make sure about that. Trust and believe, this is not going to be an open and shut case, especially now that they found out that he was suffering, he caught COVID-19 in April. You know that they're going to try and say that that was the cause and not the police officer. So I think it feels to me like they're coming up with a whole lot of excuses not to go against this guy. So I urge you to please contribute whatever you can to that fund. And then, of course, the other fund, and this is the one that, why I was really boiling, is Gianna Floyd. There's now a fund for her on GoFundMe as well, and that's also a legitimate fund that you can contribute to. The reason why that got me is because I don't have my father. So with her not having her father anymore, it got to me. It got to me real bad. And it's getting to me again. So I am going to end this video. I am going to encourage you to go out and do whatever it is that you can to help in stopping police brutality. I am letting you know that there is definitely a correlation between police brutality and gentrification in minority neighborhoods. And if you can't march, if you're too tired to pray, if you can, please sign the free petitions that I'm about to attach to the end of this video. And also, if you can donate whatever you can, because I know this is going to be a very long and trying case. All right, be safe. Bye for now. Peace out.